Hello, screenwriters. Welcome back to Five Questions with a Screenwriter. And the screenwriter we have with us today is Stacey Russell. Hello, Stacey. Welcome.
Hi, Patrick. Thank you for having me.
It's great to have you. And I know you mentioned that I was trying to catch you off guard with the questions, but I know you said you've been watching a few episodes. So, okay.
I'm
so,
sure I'll still forget. I hate being put on the spot, so I was like, oh, gotta watch. Yeah.
all right. Well, I'm going to hit you with the first one then. What are three screenplays every new writer should read, in your opinion?
Well, I don't have any specifically off the top of my head. Um, how I learned, and maybe I shouldn't recommend doing this because it kind of informed me that I could write however I wanted. And I don't know if that was a good thing or not. It depends on who you ask. But I think you should just look up screenplays of movies and TV shows that you really like. So that's what I did because I don't have any formal screenwriting training. I didn't take classes or anything like that. I just Googled PDFs of screenplays of movies and stuff that I really liked. And the three that I started with was 500 Days of Summer.
Oh, yes.
Yes. Um,
Can I just stop you right there for one
yes.
second? So, how shocked were you or surprised that the first 2-3 pages, right, of that script? You
Yes.
thinking,
What I
I
mean,
was like, oh my,
oh, so I
yeah,
can write how I write.
yeah.
I'll just do
Uh,
whatever. What? Great. Yeah.
I
Um,
was I was hooked. When it's I forgot exactly. It was like, this script is not intended to anyone, but specifically, yes, this is for you, Stacy. Whatever. I forgot. I know it wasn't you, but I'm just giving an example. Yeah, I love those three first 3 pages. All right. I'm sorry. I mean to interrupt.
I mean, I was surprised. I never even read a script before. I wrote prose, and I grew up writing fan fiction. I think in my heart, I knew I wanted to write for TV, but I didn't, I mean, I grew up in a small town in North Carolina. I mean, what the heck did I know about how to write for TV? So I just wrote fan fiction. So, I had never even seen a script before. And I was so used to writing prose and being able to, use a bunch of flowery language and everything. And then I opened up 500 Days of Summer and I was like, oh, this isn't what I was expecting at all. But like I said, it kind of informed me that I could just do whatever I wanted. But so the other one was Juno because I loved Juno and I love Diablo Cody's writing. She's very witty, very quippy. I think she's a good example of writing really good action line, like keeping it lean, but still having a voice. And then I read the Lucifer pilot because I loved that show, Lucifer. I thought Tom Ellis was great, and that if anyone else had played Lucifer, it would have been wrong. So, but that again, that was another one. Like it was very voicey, and I was just really surprised to see that. I don't know why. I kind of had this idea that screenplays were just like the bones, you know. But so that really kind of opened my eyes to the whole thing. So yeah, I would just go out and find PDFs if you can of TV shows and movies that you like and read them and study them and then go read your peers. Go on screenwriting Twitter or go on the go try to see if you can find any scripts from the annual blacklist and read those. Don't just read prose, read your peers, and then just start writing. That's
That
what I did.
is that's great advice. Don't just read the prose that's produced. Yeah, it's good to read from your peers because a lot of times you can learn from them too, as far as what not to do or if they're doing something right. I mean, so yeah, that's great advice. Um, Speaking of Juno, right? So that story about Diablo Cody, that is so inspiring. I know when I read, how she was able to make Juno, I was like, oh, so you don't have to go to film school to actually, get a break like that. So it was such an inspiring story.
Yeah, I didn't like what she said. She said that oh, writing a screenplay is easy. I was like,
Oh, she said that? Oh, I didn't
yeah,
realize that.
she did. She, that kind of was. I was like, well, is it though?
It's not easy.
But yeah, but again, like she gave me a little bit of delusions of grandeur. You know, she wrote a screenplay and got it made in like 5 months, and I was like, well, I'm gonna do that. That did not happen.
Yeah, writing overall is definitely not easy, and screenplays, trust me, if it was easy, like everybody would have.
They would do it.
Yes. All right. Okay. Question number two: what is something a screenwriter will never learn in a book?
So I'm bad, and I've actually never read any screenwriting books either. Like I said, I'm like totally self-taught. I just read a bunch of stuff. So I think because it was hard for me not to get notes, but to give notes. I think learning how to receive notes, but also how to give notes is really important. And when you get notes, and I had to learn this because like the first thing you want to do is like defend everything that you did. And I did that to a few people at the beginning, uh, which I should not have done. But you know, always be gracious. If you don't agree with the note, just be like, thank you for your read, like thank you for the time. But like I think like learning how to give notes is kind of like writing itself. Like it's something that you need to practice, and you won't get good at until you write a bunch and you read a bunch and you give a bunch of notes, because you start to know like what to look for, and you start to stop giving like, well, here's what I would do. Like those are not great notes. Like being able to give good notes takes time. But yeah, and then if once you critique more, then I think that also makes you a better writer, because you start to look for things in your own writing that you've been calling out in other people. So yeah, that's my short answer.
So, speaking of notes, right? What, in your opinion, what do you think some do's and don'ts when you're giving notes to your peers?
Like don't is like don't give the, well, this is how I would have done it note. Like don't write it this way, write it like that's not helpful because it's not your script. And maybe you want the writer to do that, but the goal of giving notes should be to help make that writer make their script the best that it can be. So like kind of think less about how you would have wrote the script or like what you would have done with that character, and try to find more constructive notes. Like, well, and think about why. Okay, well, if you don't, instead of saying, well, I wouldn't have written this character this way, like think about why and give notes like, well, I don't understand why in this scene they acted like this. Like that's a better note instead of like, well, don't make this character do that. The better note I think would be like trying to figure out why you had such a reaction to the character doing that, because clearly the writer didn't clarify that. And so that's the kind of note you should be looking for. So like, yeah, don't tell them how to write it. Do tell them what did not click for you, or like what needs clarity, so that they can go back and fix those issues.
Speaking of notes, I thought by now I would be immune to like it hurts every like whenever I receive constructive feedback, it hurts like the same every time. I'm like, okay, I've been doing this for a while, I should be okay with this, but I was like, it hurts the same every time.
I was gonna say that too. That never goes away because I'm the same way. I'm like, oh, I've been doing this for a while. Like, yeah, they're not gonna like everything, but and I for the most part, I can kind of brush some stuff off. But like, if I really like a character and somebody says something about them, I get in my feelings a little bit. Oh, and that's another do. Like, always start with what you liked about this. Don't just jump into like, here's what I hated. Like, always, we're writers. We like validation. We like to pretend like we don't like validation, but like, yeah, always start with like, here's what I love. Fluff us up a little bit before you bring the hammer down.
All right. Question number three. What is the greatest character arc you've seen in a story?
Oh, this was the one that I heard you ask Tim, and I was like, "Oh no!" Like I'm gonna have to like really think about this one. I don't have just one. Ron Ronald D. Moore is one of my absolute favorite screenwriters and showrunners. I've been watching his stuff since I was a kid. He wrote for Next Gen. He wrote for Deep Space Nine. And those were big things for me as a kid. That's why I started writing fan fiction, was because I wanted to be on the Enterprise. So I was like 9 years old writing self-insert fan fiction. But I really
At
loved,
9?
yeah.
Wow.
um, and I really loved his Battlestar. So I don't know if it. This is a complicated question. I don't think a character arc has to be like, oh, this person goes on, starts off as a jerk and goes on the hero's journey and then learns something about himself at the end. A character arc that really stood out to me because it made me so mad was Felix Gata on the Battlestar Galactica series. Um, I don't want to give too much. I mean, it's been like 20 years, I guess, if you haven't watched it by now, too bad. But yeah, I mean, I didn't like what they did with his character. And so I was so angry about it. And I thought about it for like weeks afterward. Like it really messed with my head and kind of messed me up. So I think like the best character arcs are ones like that like really make you go like kind of like knock you back. John Locke from Lost, I think, is another one. Because like you're rooting for either you liked Jack or you liked John, and I hated Jack and I loved John. And you're just like rooting for John the whole time because like the whole series on Lost, he was just trying to like make sense of all the things that had happened to him, and he wanted so bad to be important, only for him to end up being used by the Man in Black, the whole time. And so you find out about that and you're just like, oh my god, like the last 6 seasons have been an absolute lie. It's just like what character, I don't know, like arcs like that just kind of like take you by surprise and make you think. Those are my favorites.
It leaves like lasting impression on you even 20 years later.
Yeah, like I'm still mad what they did to Felix. And he his arc, what he ended up during the war with the Cylons, like losing his leg and becoming like really disillusioned by all of it, and then he ends up staging a coup with one of the other characters, and then getting executed. So sorry, spoiler alert, everybody, but like, yeah, I just remember like watching that, going like, what? Like, I felt like a Dama, who was Edward James, almost his character. I felt like a Dama did. I was just like, you betrayed everyone. How dare you? Like it was good. It's excellent writing. Ron Moore can do no wrong, in my opinion. But like, yeah, just like excellent writing, excellent character work. So any kind of arc that makes you pissed off
Hmm.
and like makes you think, and anything like that, yeah.
You hear that, writers? Write an arc that pisses people off. All right. What was the first? Oh, this one I'm excited about, especially for you, because you said like you haven't read a screenwriting book. So I'm curious how you navigated this. Okay, so what was the first screenplay you wrote, and what was that writing process like?
Oh. It was Partners, which is still hit or miss, and turmoil. It was emotional turmoil. It was rough. Not structure, like not because of like the structure and stuff like that, just because um I kind of get like method. I'm like a method writer. I can sometimes take on the tone and like some of the personalities of my main characters, and that I decided for my very first screenplay I ought to write something really dark and like really emotional. And I don't know why this idea came to me and like why it came to me the way that it did, but it was about this guy who loses. He's a detective, and he loses his partner on the force um, to to an accident, and you find out though that like he was secretly in love with this guy the whole time, but he was been straight his whole life, and so it was kind of like a what if you lose the love of your life and you never told them? It's like what do you do with that information? And so like yeah, it was hard because I was in a like Shane, who was the main character, was in a very bad place, and he was very angry and he had a lot of resentment, and I think it was because I was very angry and I had a lot of resentment from not writing for so long. So emotionally it was hard. It only took me like 3 weeks. Then came the notes. That was the worst part because it was my first screenplay, and so like it definitely needed work, and I really needed to learn like formatting and act structure and stuff. But I think just from an emotional standpoint, like yeah, it was really hard, and I was not a pleasant person to be around. My husband will attest to that. But like yeah, when I write, I kind of like lock myself in a room and become like a feral demon. Feel like yeah, that made it worse. But then I felt relief, you know. It was like I finally did this thing that I said I was going to do for so long. I finally did it. So yeah, the process was scary. It was hard emotionally, but then it was a relief. And then all that went away when I got my first set of notes. And then it was like, oh, I suck. I kept going. So
You know what? It's rare where someone's first screenplay, is good, right? So that's normal.
and I've rewritten it 3 times. It's still not done. I remember when Michaela Cole, I think she said that she had 99 drafts of "I May Destroy You." I think I'm gonna get to 100 on Partners. It's my goal to to beat her and have 100 drafts.
How do you know when it's done? Like,
It's not done.
like you never know, right?
But a lot of people think that like writing is you wrote the script, and it's not. Like writing is problem solving to me. Problems, writing is rewriting. I keep saying how I hate to get notes, and we all do. Okay, like we hate notes, but secretly, I like them because I love implementing notes because to me it's like a problem. This is a problem that I now have to solve, and that kind of excites me sometimes. I'm like, okay, well, how do I fix this issue? And then I get to go back into my story and like fix like little puzzle pieces and try to figure out how to make it better. But like, no, it's not done. It's never done until it's on screen, and then sometimes maybe not even that.
You mentioned as far as like notes. Well, to me, notes like I always get nervous whenever I receive notes, but I have to say, if it wasn't for some notes I've gotten, like my scripts would never get better. So
Yeah.
there's this one screenplay I've been working on for a while, and I can honestly say each rewrite that I do based off the notes, the script is getting better and better.
Yep.
So
It takes a village. It really does. Two of my favorite scenes. Was in Young Bloods, and the other one was in Like You Stole It. Were not my idea. They were somebody caught something, and it was a problem that I needed to fix, and so I wrote those scenes, and they ended up being my favorite scenes. But like, yeah, they weren't even my idea. So it definitely takes a village.
so this is the final question. You get to plan and go on a hangout non-romantic date with your current main character. What does that date look like?
This question's gonna make me cry.
Oh no.
So I'm trying to write a feature. I've wrote exclusively pilots for the last 3 years. This is going to be my first feature, and it's about a young man with Down syndrome, and he's 22, and he goes on a road trip adventure with his neurotypical sister to go find their family. And I'm writing Jake the way that I see my son, Sam, who has Down syndrome. So I'm writing him the way that I see Sam as an adult. So how would I mean, it would be cool to be able to see Sam or see how I see Sam as a grown up and be able to talk to him about his experiences. And because Sam is nonverbal right now as well. So yeah, it would be nice to, be able to talk to my son. But yeah, it would be cool to sit down and talk. His name's Jake in the script. It would be cool to sit down and talk to Jake and hear about his experiences as a person who is disabled and what it means for him to be a lead in a feature, because that's not something that we've really gotten to see a lot of. So it would be very meaningful for me to be able to sit down with that main character for personal reasons.
You know what? Thank you so much for sharing that.
Yeah. One thing that I like to do is talk about my kids.
This has been 5 questions with screenwriter Stacey Russell. Stacey, I do want to ask you: are you currently writing anything at the moment?
I'm writing The Open Air, and then I'm also working on another feature. It's a horror comedy called Soul Glow Activator, about a group of nouveau riche tourists who go on an ayahuasca retreat in Brazil and accidentally wake up a demon who feasts on all their shitty souls. Sorry, I don't know if I'm allowed to cuss, but totally different than The Open Air, which is like a dramedy, family dramedy. But yeah, I'm working on those two things, and then of course my latest pilot was Tits Up, very very loosely based on my experiences being a mom to a kid who is disabled. And we're sending that out right now. Me and my I am rep, me and my manager, we're trying to get that made. So please
Yes,
someone
fingers
buy my
crossed.
scripts and staff me. Like, please someone staff me.
So the let me guess, the Soul Glow Activator, is that the name of it?
Yeah.
That's a great title, by the way.
Thank you. It was
Yeah.
yeah, I don't know. There's a band, they're not together anymore, called Family Force 5, and that was the name of the lead singer, only he spelled it with a UR, like Soul Glow Activator. Uh and when I was coming up trying to think of a title for this, that just kept popping up. And this is I mean, they've been they've been gone for a while. I don't know why Soul Glow Activator just popped up into my head, but I thought it kind of captured the tone perfectly. It's like the Menu meets Army of Darkness.
All right, and then what's a recent TV show or film you've watched that you would recommend to our viewers?
Oh God, I hate these questions too. Too many. What did I just finish? I always recommend The Bear. You have to be emotionally prepared to watch The Bear. But yeah, The Bear is great. I just finished rewatching Ted Lasso, Severance. Oh gosh, so many. Movie wise, highly recommend Everything Everywhere All at Once. A24 is gonna has a pre-order right now to get the script book, which I will be buying because I want to study that script. All of Us Strangers, Past Lives. I had the honor of getting to meet and talk to Celine Song at Austin Film Fest last year. And I'm really looking forward to her new one, the Materialist. So yeah.
All right, Stacey, thank you so much. Is there anything else you'd like to share with our viewers, or where can they find you?
If you can find me on Twitter, I refuse to call it X.
I'm with you 100%.
Yeah, you can find me on Twitter, and hopefully I did not give too much bad advice. Maybe don't listen to everything that I said. But yeah.
Cool, cool. All right. Again, thank you so much. I really appreciate you coming on board and sharing your soul about screenwriting with us.
Of course, happy to be here and happy to hopefully help.